Well, welcome everybody to our Colorado Proud Web today. I'm super excited. I have a lot to learn in this area, so I am very excited. Just want to share a couple quick slides of what to expect. Today, we're talking about AI in marketing, and we have Chuck Aikens, who is the founder of Taimu.ai, and this is an AI consultancy company. And this is his email, should you like to reach out to him. And just as a reminder, if we could keep our microphones on mute while he's speaking, it just helps eliminate background noise so we can really hear him. And we welcome questions. We encourage them. Raise your hand or type them in the chat, and we'll make sure that they are addressed. But we'll also ask for questions throughout the webinar. And if something comes up after the webinar, feel free to reach out to me, Barb Howe, and this is my email address on the screen. Well, with that, I am super excited to introduce Chuck. As I mentioned, Chuck is the founder of Taimu.ai, which is an AI native marketing consultancy. I actually had to look that up so I understood what it all meant, Chuck. So
That's fine.
hopefully I'm not the only
Oh, so
one.
many words.
Um, he has been helping brands show up across traditional searches, like what we would call it SEO, right? A search engine optimization, conversational search, and now the emerging agentic surfaces. Chuck has been running traditional ads for over 20 years here in traditional agencies for over 20 years here in Denver. And he builds his own tools, runs campaigns, and has run them for more than 10 brands and teaches marketing on how to win in a world where people are searching Google. I search Google and AI chatbots. His expertise is really using AI to win at AI search, which is fascinating. So I'm super excited. Chuck, I turn it over to you, and I'm excited to learn.
All right. Well, thank you. And we do have a few people here, and I know you asked them to keep their microphone off, so I won't make them talk immediately. But Candace and Melissa, if you could, in chat, go ahead and drop, what your product is, what your brand is, what you might be working on LinkedIn, anything like that. We will do a couple interactive things, or since you are here, we can use what you're working on as a discussion point. And yeah, we'll kind of go from there. So I'm gonna share some slides. That is my entire. I want to just share a screen. Um, I got to figure out how to do that because I wasn't expecting it to share my entire screen. Um, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Da, 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 da. I will make the screen really big. We'll do that. Let's see.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll go ahead. Can you guys see the whole screen?
Yes.
Okay. So then, um, I usually don't have technical difficulties with. So can you see the slide deck now?
Yes.
Okay.
It says
So
speak
what
AI's language.
Yep. What we're going to talk about here for a second is, I'll be talking about today is how to get your products ready for the next wave of search. So, why this matters is that we have change accelerating in how people search and how they are using the internet. Even if they're not changing, the underlying infrastructure is changing very, very fast. So we're going to talk about what this looks like, but what's happening is that AI-based search, what I'm going to call conversational search as opposed to traditional, is growing rapidly. And at the end of 2027, as we enter 2028, I know that seems like a long way away, but as we're sitting here in the middle of 2026, I mean, we're talking about 12 to 18 months that AI search will surpass traditional search if it continues the same trajectory. And when we get into that world of LLMs, whether it's Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude, kind of driving the search results and the input that goes into search, there's a few things happening. For one, the AI models, their training data has to be very, very current to be relevant. And so some surveys and studies have found that 80% of all the training data that's put in to answer AI is very fresh. So stale content no longer kind of passes mustard out there. Now in the days of Google, you would write something on your website and not touch it for a long, long time. That may not work anymore. And we kind of have to work through that. And the other thing that we're really looking at is the new world of agentic traffic. There are agents either deployed by the LLMs, like when you're on ChatGPT, it sends out an agent to look at your current product detail page or your current website, or there's actually agents that are assisting humans. There's things like OpenClaw and other things happening where people are actually using agents and doing some shopping. It's a small percentage right now, but it does happen. And the big take will be that Apple recently at their developer conference a month ago announced that they will, be using Apple Intelligent to deploy agentic type things from, right from the iPhone coming up. So those are some things that are happening. What I want to do, and I can't see the chat at the moment, but what I want to do is before we get too much further, I want to show you something on the current website. So this is Timu.ai. And right here, we're talking about show up in search and get recommended. And I want to ask the folks that are here to go ahead and run a secret shop. So either using your homepage of your brand if you have it, or if you actually have a product, you would put a URL in here. And then you would write down the phrase that you think someone would type. If you're not really sure, you can leave it blank in your email address. It's going to email you, and I'll get a copy of it so we can talk about it in a couple minutes. It's going to simulate what the agents or what's happening in the LLMs in your product category and show you how you could get more visible in comparison to the competition. So it's a diagnostic report that'll give you some feedback. It is free to run here right on the website, and it'll give us some things that we can talk about. Also, I'm going through this for anybody that watches it later. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. The email address that was shared was CIA, so Chuck Isaac Aikens, at Timu.com, or you can connect with me here and ask questions. I do have some other screens up for anything interactive. I've got ChatGPT, Claude, and Perplexity, so that's what's up here. But go ahead and run that because what's important is for us to start working through what a human sees, which is beautiful photography, brand colors, a website layout, maybe even a really nice Shopify theme. There's storytelling. There's a lot of visual things going on that are important when you have a food product or have something that you're selling online. There's a lot of aesthetics that go into what people see on their phone or when they're at their desktop browsing. This is very different than what AI sees, which is data and words, your product titles, your H1 text, attributes, key facts, your FAQs. What is your price? What's your availability? Is it in stock? What's your return policy? Like AI is looking for something very, very different. So AI doesn't see all this lifestyle photography or the great website that you're building, just reading your product data. So what's happening is that the CPG brands that organize their information, now you still have to have a brand, you've got to have a good product, but how you organize your information is very important to AI, just like how you package it, the marketing messages that you pull out, and how you get somebody to add to cart. A human is important. We're going to have to think about that for the large language model so that you're recommended and even start to think about, well, what if an agent was shopping on behalf of the human? What would happen? Um, so I do have some things that I'll walk you through. The three most important items are clarity, key facts, and FAQs. So these are the things that, once you kind of get price, what is the product name and what does it cost and how do I buy it at the direct or at a retailer or, maybe even see it at a farmer's market. Once you get past those basic things, how do you have clarity around the product in a way that the AI can figure it out in less than 100 words? That it's not hard, but it is a different way of thinking because we need to remove the marketing fluff. And then, what are the key attributes? What are all the data points so that, AI can understand it? How much, how many, what's the count? Are there any health claims that need to be substantiated? Like I mentioned before, what's that return policy? Where do I buy it? How do I find it? Just really factual things have to be covered. And we'll talk through how to think about FAQs because the internet's kind of search is turning into an almost an answer engine as opposed to a search engine, where people have kind of learned, hey, if I have a problem, I ask questions, I get the answer. So FAQs, whether they're at the overall brand level or if you bring them down to the product, these questions need to be thought through, like what stands between someone hearing about my product and actually buying it? How do I eliminate that friction so somebody can add to cart, maybe do instant checkout through GPT, maybe even, what do I need to say so that they, hit the Amazon or the Instacart button? Don't know exactly what those last minute questions are that people are going to have, but they are things that we can start to think about by looking at what's happening in search queries and also what's in the training data for you and your competitors. We can start getting an idea of like, what are those friction points? What are those questions that people really have? Almost like when you're talking to them one on one and you kind of get past the fluff, like what do people actually ask before they buy a product? And we can talk through that a little bit. So before I get into all of that, I'm going to stop the share just for a second. And I want to see if we have any questions that are coming in or anything that's come through the chat. And I also want to do a quick check on my email to see if any of the any of the secret shops are coming through. So I don't see any yet. So you gotta fill those out if you can. They also take a few minutes to run. Maybe you could let me know in the chat if you ran one or not, and we will go from there. Um, and then Barbie.
It says the chat is disabled.
Oh, so you can't say anything in chat. That's why we're not
No.
seeing anything.
Sorry about
Yes,
that. Let me.
And
that's
you can
okay.
also you can
And then
also
I
say
did
words,
I did do
Melissa.
the secret shopper thing, and
Perfect.
it says that it was generating it, but I haven't gotten anything.
Okay,
So
good. Good. I'll check in on it. It's running, just to give you a little bit of an idea, it's checking 4 different engines across 7 prompts. So it's doing quite a bit of work right now, but it usually only takes 3, 4, 5 minutes to complete. So that's good. Melissa, since you were talking, you get to be the guinea pig. Uh,
well, I mean, I really didn't want to, but okay.
I know. Okay, we can let Candace do it if she would chime in. Just do this, and I won't dig in too much since you kind of preferred, you kind of said, hey, I don't want to do too much. Ground me a little bit in like what your product is and what somebody might search for online, and I'll kind of just, go from there and see what kind of
Okay.
value we can create for you.
Okay, well, that's sort of the problem is that we don't have retail products. We
Okay.
have wholesale only products.
Right.
And so our products, we have all of our data that's generated that I do in Syndigo, and then it gets pushed out to like a US Foods, a Cisco, and
Yeah.
a PFG. And I mean, I have a basic website that talks about our products,
Yeah.
but for the actual data, you would have to go into the distributor to see it
Yeah. All right. This
because
is a
we're
great
wholesale
resource.
only.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
What is the website?
It's www dot sweet ESC pastries. It should pop up.
Give me the initials again after sweet.
ESC, like the escape key on your
Yep.
keyboard, and then the
Yep.
word pastries.
Got it. All right. Um, I've pulled up the website. I'll share in just a minute, but premium baked goods that are easy to prepare.
Yep. Hmm.
Okay.
Yes. And
And
we have a gal that does all of our website stuff. I don't do that.
It's
That's
okay.
I have way too many other things to do.
Okay, so basically, for anyone that's listening along, this is primarily, as you said, wholesale, and we've got things like here, I'll go ahead and share again. We've got things like pizza crust. Um, I'm trying to get this set back up.
Yeah.
Linguine pasta, rigatoni pasta. So now,
Yeah.
from a standpoint of how the systems will work, your website will get crawled. It will show up, unless you have a no index, which I didn't check for, but I'm assuming you don't. It'll show up in Google search results. It'll show up. It will get put into the training data. Unless you're blocking the bots, but you do have. Looks like this is on WordPress. You do have some information here that's going to go into the LLMs. So just to give us an example and to work through it, what can you tell me about? This is why you didn't want a demo because we're going to uncover right, but getting some free publicity. But one thing I'm kind of curious about is to see what's in the system. So much like way back in the day, we all Googled ourselves. I just wanted to see what sweetest great pastries, what would show up. And you can see it's pretty accurate. You're not direct to public, you're wholesale only. This is what you make. So there's some information in here. So it looks like, according to ChatGPT, you're a legitimate, thank goodness, B2B specialty food manufacturer designed for restaurants, distributors, and food service buyers who need gluten-free, allergy-friendly pizza crust.
That is correct.
Yeah. All right. So that is good. We have correct information. So I'm going to say, great. I want to look. No, I'll just say I am looking for my restaurant. All right. Let's have a little, not fun, but who else? It might be in Denver, if that matters as a competitor. Does location and regionality matter for who you're selling to? Is there any preference towards you being in Denver, servicing Denver restaurants, or do you service
We
regional or
service
nationally?
like half the US.
Okay, awesome. All right, so basically, I'm a Denver area restaurant, and for every reason, I decided I want to work with somebody locally because I'm Colorado proud. Wink, wink. Here's some people. You recognize any of these? I
I
recognize
can't read the screen, it's too small.
I know. So let's make it a little bigger for everybody. I see Udi's in there that I'm familiar with through Conagra. We got Wildflower, the gluten-free. You recognize any of these guys?
Yeah, the gluten-free bistro went out of business. Wildflower went out of business. Udi's is still going. So yeah,
Okay. So interesting point that these guys are out of business. We'll note for everybody listening because this is fairly common. Um, Google has a process when pages go 404 and people may or may not shut down their Google My Business listing. They have a process of how to get people out of their system. The training data doesn't quite work the same way. This is why that recency thing is so important, because they don't really have a solve for it. But we still are going to have remnants of gluten-free and wildflower in here. But you say Udi's is there, and then there's some national guys here as well. And what I want to do to kind of get us into how this would work is I want I'm going to speak in first person. Uh, no, I don't think I did it that way. How do trying to figure out real quick what I want to start getting a sense of is how it thinks about you versus the competition. So I'm going to look at Udi's, and you also mentioned Did you say Blue Hummingbird was still in business? We'll do it anyway. What I'm looking for is really, and again, I know I didn't use proper English. What's good about English and spelling, just so everybody knows, LLMs don't care. They actually work on a large weighting ranges, but they're just looking for patterns. So what's coming up here is I'm trying to figure out how it's thinking about you versus the competition because this is how people decide. This is how AI would kind of work through who it's recommending out there. And you can kind of see that it's identifying Udi's as a national brand. It has some pizza crust sizes. Um, it says that Sweet Escape is the strongest choice if your restaurant's selling point is allergen safety. So, with the amount, I think that's interesting to know. And then it knows this talks about why Udi's would be the strongest choice if you're looking for, you know, uh, bigger but broad line convenience and consistency. So you start to see some things that are showing up as to how you're stacking up against Udi's and Blue Hummingbird, whether it's a buyer, it's a restaurant, anyone's kind of thinking about it. If they were to go into AI and do this type of querying, you can see how that's a little different in how that it comes up related to, let's go ahead and take this same thing over to Google, our traditional surface, and see what comes up here. So I'm going to skip past everything and get down to the traditional results. So if I were to do a search on Google for gluten-free, allergen-free for my restaurant, I'm even going to add in Denver since I gave a a local preference to AI, and you can kind of see we're getting a different experience here. Now, Sweet Escapes did come up, so kudos there. So traditional search is working for you pretty well. I would work on page titles a little bit here and there, but it picked up your retail page instead of your homepage. Not a huge deal. You did come up number two, and you're the number one supplier or vendor or whatever word that we want to use here, source. Reddit did come up number one. That's going to happen in Google. But then we have still writing, dough counter, the Duke and Cleve Fruities are doing some conversation. There are sponsored results in here, but here's Blue Hummingbird. So we got some overlap there. And then we have some retail showing up. So, I mean, I did get some results here in traditional search. But what's interesting about this, not that it's better or worse, but you'd start to see why somebody might prefer this type of query that really honed in and helped me understand in a grid pattern and did a short list for me that helped, I might have a preference for like, hey, these are the five people. Now I'm going to find out that gluten-free bistro, it's not they may not even have wholesale, but you can kind of see how there's a different experience when you do a conversational based search than the traditional 10 blue links that you might get here. Now, since Google knows that, what they've been doing for the last few years, I would probably say about 2 years, even though it really peaked last summer, is that they are introducing AI overviews to, on after we get through the ads. And it looks like Doloro's is the number one search result here. They have AI overviews here that try to do the same thing. And again, we've got to kind of look and say, all right, who are my wholesale distributors? Who are my allergen free? Who is local retail? And then from that, this standpoint, what I would be looking into or what I would be thinking about is, hold on a second. Sweet Escape shows up as number three in the traditional SEO results, but for Google's AI product, which is Gemini, we didn't show up. Okay. So now you are over here on the right-hand side, so it does know you exist. But at the moment, I'm not seeing you in the AI result, which would be something to, to look at or think about. But I am noticing that it pulled in your retail page because that's what's ranking. Now I can also do a deeper dive into the AI overview with AI mode. And then you can see it started to kind of push Sweet Escape pastries up a little higher. You can even see you're the number one recommendation for a local Colorado wholesale partner and your best for top allergens. So you can kind of see that in the AI overview surface. Okay, I wasn't really all that excited about it, but it wasn't bad. I liked that you had the number three ranking, but I'm really kind of liking the AI mode Gemini as to, hey, you seem to be doing pretty well once it can hone in and really kind of analyze what's going on. And you can see in the quick comparison matrix that you stack up really, really well. Now, you would think, and it shouldn't, but like Google couldn't have compiled this quick enough to know that we're talking to Sweet Escape right now. So I don't want you to think that I've never visited your website before. I did pull it up real quick. It could have influenced the AI, but it's very unlikely that I'm getting that level of personalization. I can go incognito if I wanted to, but it does feel like a pretty accurate read. And I'll figure out why that secret. I don't know why we haven't got the secret shop yet. That's okay. Um, we'll look into that or figure out what might be going on there. But we're kind of simulating a secret shop right at the moment or getting there to it because what the report kind of does is it walks through this for you, and then it even gives you advice as to how to fix the different items, that you have. And I don't know if Melissa filled one out. Maybe there's something delayed in the tool, but tested it right before the call. Not a big deal though, but that's the concept of what we're looking for. So I'll continue Sweet Escape as an example. I want to walk you through what shows up in the report or what that I look at. And the first I'm going to kind of play with here is hero clarity. And what's happening here, or when we think about it, is that the hero clarity, we need to pivot from storytelling to real functional facts because AI models work this way. And actually for Sweet Escape, since it's less about consumer, and we're dealing with a B2B, it acts a little bit more like AI does because it when people get busy, they just go for the facts. Like when you get on IG or TikTok and you kind of are browsing around, but sometimes you just need information. And that's what AI does really well and what we're talking about here when you fact load. So I'm gonna play for a second. This probably isn't too bad right here. It's probably pretty good. You've got some good facts, but I want to see. I'm first just going to um, I'm going to ask Claude. I'm not going to give it any advanced prompts or anything that is knowledge based because I want you guys to be able to simulate this yourself. Um, let's look at this page and describe it with clarity of 100 words or less to improve. I'm just going to tell it right what I want, improve GEO or AI fact loading. Give me 100 words that work. And again, I do have, really big prompts I could share in the way that I go about this formally, but I want you just to be able to say, let's see if what Claude would say, and I'm jumping around a little bit on purpose so we get exposure both to GPT and Claude, to see what it might say would be a real clear definition of what Sweet Escape Pastries does in 100 words or less. And again, you can see I didn't worry too much about grammar, optimizing a prompt, spelling, none of that. We're just going to let the LLMs do what they do. And you can see it's refining the product description for optimization. So it's working through, what it needs to do, architecting a fact dense. And so now what it's saying is this is a really dense 100 words that works for AI retrieval with names, locations, certifications, product label, and case quantities, all packed into 100 words. So this is I want some analogy, like nectar for the gods or honey for the whatever you want to call it. But like this is what AI wants to see when it's trying to figure out what Sweet Escape Pastries does. You're in Longmont, California, you're a manufacturer, this is what you do. You're free from these 9 allergens. You distribute nationwide through food service distributors. These are your feature products. You're Colorado Green Business Network certified, and here's your phone number. So that is like I don't have time to read. I don't know who you are, but tell me all about Sweet Escape Pastries. That's what clarity looks like. So every sentence is a standalone fact chunk. And I'm going to go ahead and tell it yes on this next one. I have a bigger thing, but it's asking if it should do FAQs. But this is kind of an interesting example of without any advanced technology or systems, as long as I'm sharing with you what the LLMs are looking for, you don't have to get too complicated to use Claude or ChatGPT to do hero clarity. Describe it with clarity of 100 words or less to improve GE, SEO, or fact loading. Give me 100 words. Then it instantly came back. It almost knew what I'm presenting. I don't think it does, but right, like I'm just following the bouncing ball, but it is too. That right behind a clarity statement, like let's act like we're working a booth at a farmer's market, and someone walked up, and again, I know you're past that, but it's a good simulation. What do you do? Tell me. And then I'm gonna have a couple questions. Now, these are pretty basic, but again, you can see the FAQs. So I'm going to tell it, can you get more specific on the product FAQs? Um, it's answering brand level questions, which is okay. So I want to see if it'll give me a product FAQ, and I'm going to talk to you about what the difference is. Notice that it also gave me schema. This is something you can put into WordPress. It reads the schema. It looks for schema to read because you can kind of tell by looking at this. Like, here's the question, here's the answer. It can get at this. It can get at the data it's looking for faster than if it just kind of reads and goes through all the pictures and does all of that. So that's what schema is. If there were any questions, we can see if there's any chat. Nope. Okay. So you would have the schema, but now we're getting into the things that make you more findable in AI. So I'm going to go back to here. So we talked about hero clarity, and you can see we went right to the product FAQs. Now, the reason that I told it to do product FAQs is that they're different than brand FAQs. So the brand FAQs talk about sweet escapes. The product FAQs, it didn't ask me which one to write it for, but this would be on a specific SKU or something you offer, such as the pizza crust. Now, I don't need different FAQs for different sizes. I just need one set of FAQs for the pizza crust. Let's see if it came back with anything yet. There it is. It picked the 14-inch family pizza crust. And though here it did the 12 separately and it did the 9. So, it did all of them. So here are product specific FAQs that could be added to the website that give the AI assistant something concrete to cite. So there's two different parts, like who is Sweet Escape? I've got some questions about that. Good. Now tell me more about your rigatoni pasta. And what's happening here is that we have translated the information on the website into question answer pairs that the machines and to some degree humans like. That's why we have people also ask on the front of Google, but then also what we see in the industry is people move from keywords to questions in their search patterns, particularly they were doing it before AI showed up, but even things like Siri and Alexa taught them to ask questions. But when they got into chat, really quickly turned into questions, and they brought the questions back to Google. Like we've seen the length of queries increase as people move to more question base things, but these are just quick question answer pairs. So, right, so that's how easy to kind of do them. And what a lot of folks can do on WordPress or Shopify, there's plugins and Shopify apps that help you load FAQs of the website, or you could just copy and paste them into the content as well. But you could start putting FAQs on your pages. Let's see if you have one. So in this case, maybe you drop all the FAQs below the products, or if you had a rigatoni pasta page, you could put it in there. You can also put FAQs directly on the wholesale spot. So there's another, I've seen people do sometimes put company FAQs in their About Us, or even on their homepage. So there's different places that you can add FAQs, and you saw with some prompting that the AI, whatever AI model you use, most people use ChatGPT, some will use Claude, but in ChatGPT you can put those type of prompts, and it will understand where you're going, particularly if you self-identify yourself, like I'm the owner of Sweet Escape, please help me. And you can start telling it what you're trying to do. Your end result is hero clarity and also FAQs. Here would be a trick if you wanted. You can take the deck that Barb will share afterwards and feed it in to your prompt and just tell it to read it and write you some product FAQs, and it'll kind of look at what I've been talking about today a little bit. As it goes to write, I'm going to ask you some different questions. So what we're looking for when we're looking at how to make your products or your brand more visible in AI, so that when people search AI, you're more findable. These are the top three things you'd be looking at. We covered hero clarity and then product FAQs. So let me play around in the prompt let's see what it would do. Um, can you also give me a set of key facts let's do the rigatoni pasta, for addition to the website, so that everyone knows what's going on. You can see how technical my prompts are. I do write more sophisticated prompts when I'm doing the equivalent of programming using AI, but this is supposed to be conversational, so why talk knows what's going on. Let's see how it interprets a set of key facts across rigatoni, and we'll compare that to what I'm saying that you need. So it's given what is the product, what are the case size, certification, storage, prep, texture, and eating, so sensory, best pairings, best application, who's it for, manufacturers. These are pretty good facts. So what I say I'm looking for key facts: pack, count, dosage, size, and format, certificates, claims, allergens. What is the ingredient composition, and should I trust this? So that's what I'm looking for when I'm saying every product should share these key attributes, or should carry these attributes, so that answers can be given to questions, but more importantly, that the machines can understand what it is you're selling and how you've packed it. How have you built it? What certifications have you done? What is the actual biological reaction in the ingredients. You can see how you could get deep into, some people really have to substantiate any claims that they make. And then, have you had any third-party validation, sourcing, and testing? I can tell you that the LLMs, and even the ones that power Google, they care about this a lot. And as you get into more edge cases, and what that means in my world when I say edge is getting into a situation where someone does have, they do have a lactose intolerance, or they need to be gluten free, or they're managing AIP, whatever it is that's happening. The LMs have to make sure that you have done the work, the safety and substantiation claims, the certifications, or they're not going to recommend your product because it could be unsafe. So in the marketing world, we tend to push this down, or even we have to worry about DSHEA and FDA and FTC as to what we can say, which does kind of program us not to ever bring up these type of items, or like not in your case with sweet pastries, but what about for kids in pregnancy? That's another real common thing when it comes to food and beverage, particularly functional beverages. When it comes down to should it recommend a product or a brand, these things become very important. That you can prove to the machine that you've done your work so that it feels good about making the recommendation to the end user, the searcher, the chatter, the human. It's got to make sure you've done this. And they have a whole bunch of checks and balances they have to put in place to make sure that they're making these recommendations. So, this idea of proving or showing that you have trust, certifications, and then how you package it, including dosage, becomes really, really important. And you should start to see more language about this on Amazon, on Thrive Market, on Instacart. You're going to start, in Walmart, Target, Sprouts. You're going to start seeing more and more of this because it has to be substantiated at the product level that the work has been done on the product. So that's a little bit of a tangent on the key facts, but it gives you a little bit of insight into how, this is working when it comes down to recommendations. So let's go back. Oh, it did a pretty good job. You can even say like you can see that it started to bring in the certifications pretty high. It did get down into sensory items like the texture and eating. That's something that traditional search doesn't worry about as much, but texture, taste, smell becomes really important in the AI world because when the machines try to figure out if a product is good or not, particularly by reading reviews, machines can't, they don't have sensory, so they have to trust what the humans have said. So it's an important part that Google always assumed that you would read about it on Amazon or Reddit. The LLMs are thinking like, and even Google with this Gemini product, they have to quantify and figure out how to build the data around sensory. Same thing as kind of the health and safety spot. So, something you have to, you have to do. And you can see AI is trying to be helpful here. It's saying, hey, do you want to do the same key facts treatment for the other four SKUs? So again, you can do some work on all three of the variables that I mentioned. I've got 10 total that are identified, but these are the three. This is one, two, and three: clarity, key facts, and FAQs. And if you kind of think about, oh, what would go on in the real world? Okay, I told somebody who I am. I gave them some information about the product. I answered their questions. It's not a very enlightening conversation. It's not a lot of fun, but you can see how those three elements sure would tell a machine or a robotic human, right, who's just looking at the data and the data alone. Hey, should I consider this and how would it stack up to an alternative? But the concept here is per the promise of the slide deck is to how do you speak AI's language? And then as Barb kind of mentioned, how do I'm saying how can I even use AI so that you can get better at AI? That's why we queried it with some real simple prompts so that we can improve what AI sees. Because it's real easy to look and see, ooh, what does the human see? Nice pictures, how to become a partner, examples of delicious products. Like, a human's going to read this and figure it out. Um, this would be a good example. Like when it comes to the certifications, I was just kind of making sure. But right, the certification's not as readable by AI as well as the food service like Shamrock. These are images. They probably are not read by the machines the way that we want them to be. A human can figure it out. But I was trying to see. By the title of it, I can kind of tell that it's Sham. I mean, I could read the file name to figure out that it's Shamrock. But what would work even better is that, if we had a text line down here that's right beneath it that said Shamrock, those are the kind of small adjustments that go a long way towards telling a restaurant owner that they can look for Sweet Escape because they already have a relationship and a delivery coming from Shamrock or Cisco or whoever. Same thing on all of these. So these are great visuals, but once we move from the visual world that humans do with their eyes to the AI data world, we would have to make some updates to the website just to show that. And, it's working through it now, and it even knew it. Like AI had kind of figured it out, but what we want to do is reduce the friction. And you can't even say, all right, I don't want to clutter up my homepage. You could do it just on the wholesale page, a paragraph down here, or even an FAQ could be, which food service providers do you source through or, the right language, and you can list them out. So, but again, you can see this need, and it's always been something for SEO, but the SEO work was always, hey, put some keywords in here. What this is actually a little bit different because it's kind of saying, hey, can you write out the questions that we think people will have, give that to the large language models so that when people ask questions, Google through Gemini or any of the platforms that use OpenAI, to drive like Perplexity uses OpenAI by default for their search results, you know, um, that you have the data in the question and answer pairs, the key facts, the clarity, so that you show up and have more visibility in AI. So even with all this complexity and all the emails you get about GEO and AI and optimization, I wanted to try to just simplify it down for you because you don't need all the fancy tools. You just need to have that clarity, present the facts, write it out in copy, put some FAQs, and literally you're probably going to, like Sweet Escape isn't doing bad, but there's a couple opportunities. Because I was really happy that you showed up so high. Is right out of the gate is that if you just do those three things, you're going to be more visible today and in the future for AI. And I doubt the folks that you are competing against are going to figure this out too quickly. And even if they start thinking about it, the problem in the industry right now is it gets real complicated real fast because the vendors are all trying to sell tools and explain how it all works, dumbing it down. It's kind of a little old fashioned. Just say what you do, let the machines read it, and then when people are looking for you, we've removed the friction so they can find you, which is kind of how Google search worked 10 years ago before, SEO showed up and optimization, and Google has so many things going on their search results. That is how search worked originally and how AI works today. It'll probably change over time, but that simplicity still exists in the AI search world as we know it today. So, with that said, here's your action plan is um, what I'm saying if you want to improve, write one FAQ. And you could do it on your number one product. You could do it on the wholesale page. You could do it on your home page, but just to do something, write a set of FAQs. Now, I do have it mentioned here, and I didn't talk to it about it too much, but you may have noticed that the FAQs were fairly short. Uh, these type of FAQs are meant to be short. If you were running a customer service team at a CPG for health and wellness or food and beverage, most of the questions you get real short. The answers are real short. People are just looking for quick data. When you move upstream to your homepage, they could be a little bit longer, but we're still only talking about 100 words. So you don't need to get super verbose. If you're on Shopify, there's apps that help you. WooCommerce and WordPress does have a few. But then I'm actually, moving you into as you work on the foundation to go up to the brand level, write FAQs for your products so you can see that I'm encouraging maybe to start with FAQs. Key facts can get a little tricky, but the brand FAQs on a homepage can be pretty good and start looking, at your titles and then move deeper into things. You could look at the secret shops and start working on your hero statements and different items. You're going to have to decide how far you want to go, but just with what I've shared with you today, unless you're in a competitive space and competing, with some of the big guys, you can probably find a category that you can win. Now, when I say probably find a category, what a lot of people do is they have too big of a product category and it represents the entire aisle at Sprouts or Whole Foods, where I'm kind of saying, no, really hone in to what is your product category or subcategory. In this case, it's gluten-free, pasta and pizza crust. That's a little more specific than just gluten-free bread or pizza crust or whatever it might be. So get down as far as you can, even down to um, looking at whether you're Denver and regional based or you're truly national. So find a category you can win. If you do these things, you can win it. So you have that digital self, and then you can expand from there. So uh, I'll check on the secret shops if they have not landed and figure out what might have hung them up. It just takes one of the engines to be down, but I get notified. We'll make sure that those get out to the two of you. If you have any questions, great. Yeah, and then Melissa, to your point, good question. I understand that they're in Syndigo. Um, we may need, let me see if they're readable. Well, let me see.
Yeah, I mean, it is tricky because with it being business to business,
Hmm?
our data is very much mandated where it sits by
Mhm.
distributor.
Yeah,
So Cisco does not use the same thing as US Foods, which is
yeah,
not the same thing as Shamrock.
yeah.
And that's what powers their shop here and
Mhm.
buy.
Yep,
And then, I mean, it's so much data that the average person, no offense,
yeah,
doesn't want to see all that garbage. So
exactly.
there's no reason for us to kind of have it out on our main website. And I love that you think that these distributors and restaurant owners use AI. I think that's hilarious. Half of them can't even get to an actual website.
Well,
You're hilarious.
oh, I know. So, but here, yeah, I agree with you. The only thing I want to point out, because it's kind of true in most industries, that unless they're B2B tech or B2B software, you can kind of make this, I mean, you can kind of make it with consumer shoppers. Like, how many people are actually going to AI to do product discovery? The reason this matters a little bit more than using the usage number is because Gemini is driving the Google search results. So in the secret shop, I'm checking both Gemini AI mode and AI overviews, as well as Perplexity, because those are more true search engines. We will check OpenAI to see how you're doing, but you're right. At the moment, people aren't doing this. When I expect that to change, what's going to be the catalyst for the conversational search? It'll happen through voice, and Apple is the trigger. That when Apple and they decided to go with Gemini, connects Siri and voice search to the Gemini product, that's when you just got to make sure you're visible. And for me, because I've been through a number of cycles, I akin this to the first time IG showed up, when TikTok became popular. We're at the beginning of all this, which is a great opportunity to get your information into the training data. So the same way that you need to be into the distributors are the retailers for people that listen to this that do have retail, the content syndication where every system is different, whether it's, Syndigo or it's Walmart. It is a huge dilemma to manage your content and work through the managing of the key data and the facts and the hero clarity, not just on your website, but on these other items, because what everybody has to do, including the food service distributors, is they've got to backdoor feed information into the systems so people can search and find. So you may not be aware, and it may be behind a username and password, but all these systems are trying to figure out, how do I push data into the training data? And even like in the retail space, Shopify is feeding your data from the product catalog directly into Chat GPT and into Gemini. So the concept of data being a large percentage of what's going on for findability in AI is 100% accurate. And in cases where you have messy data, AI becomes even more valuable. I don't know when restaurant owners will have their aha moment in the future or if they ever will, but all I'm saying is that what is predicted in the next couple years, but let's say 18 to 24 months is the horizon that I'm using, is that we will start to see people solving their problems, for work by doing conversational search. And then when they conversate, they're gonna get fed the information that's coming out of OpenAI and Gemini. Now, Claude is something different at the moment, but definitely has market share. But we do know that ChatGPT and Gemini are both influencing other platforms that we think that we don't traditionally think of as AI because everybody's putting their information and putting the AI into their products. And again, whether you're using Notion, I mean, last week, and just making this kind of, but if you use Notion or HubSpot or Salesforce, you are absolutely getting the information inside of your ecosystem fed from AI. So it's not that they have to go to their phone or go somewhere else. Right where they do their work, the restaurant owners, including the restaurant platforms, are building an AI into the working software solutions to make vendor recommendations. So this put the data where the work is happening is a trend. That's what's going to drive the AI search. It's not that someone's going to go to ChatGPT. It's that ChatGPT is going to go to their desktop. It's going to go to their software platform that they use. It's going to go to the systems that they use because that's what everybody in the industry is doing. So just kind of know that this is going to unfold in a way that one, I don't understand and I can't predict, but I am encouraging people to do those three things to protect against whatever may happen to make sure you keep visible. Because I mean, I remember the first time, I'm going to date myself and then I'll wrap up on this. I remember the first time I ever Googled something and the company I had showed up number one because I had already done so much work in advance. No matter what people decide to do, you need to make sure that your business, your products, your brand narrative is represented properly because you just don't know what people are going to do with this training data. And a lot of people are doing stuff with it, particularly the devs of the world that have, people like me are picking up this data and doing all kinds of interesting things with it. So just have that. It's not like I'm just giving you, it's not a woe is you or the world's going to change. It's just do a little bit now could pay off a whole lot later because the ability to influence this data is in the system. It may not be there in 2 years. It may get locked down and they're like, okay, we got enough data now. We just need to keep it clean. Like you may never be able, we only have a window to kind of build this. And the same thing happened with Google, with TikTok, with different ecosystems. The first people to get it right tend to benefit for the next 3 to 5 years. So take that for what it's worth. Anything you can do, like you don't have to do a ton, but if, what I like to do is look for things that will help web, traditional search, and then the agentic search that's coming forward is that being more, again, just to say again, to be a little more clear, to give some key facts and to add FAQs, it's a good practice all the way around. It just now has that Venn diagram overlap that it's good for humans and it's good for machines. And in the old days, the only thing that overlap was keywords, and that's kind of boring. I mean, not boring, but it's like, oh, but now it's richer. It's like, wow, now you can really give me some information that I can use to help, people find who they're looking for. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I think I covered everything I did. If there are any questions, I'll take them. If you have questions, when you listen to this later, you can reach out to me via email or LinkedIn. Always happy to help. And then I do have specialization not only in CPG, but in health and wellness, and then also in food and beverage. I don't have them listed here, but the 10 plus brands that you heard about in the beginning, two of them are Oh, three of them are Wild Planet, Wishgard Nerves, and Banyan Botanicals. There's a number of milk companies I work with. Don't know why I got into milk. There's anything from deodorant to tea. I mean, but no matter what, it's all about taking what I do, and these are some of the bigger brands, is I tend to work with brands that are between that, they may only be a couple million today, may even be at the entrepreneur level, but we just kind of talk and try to get you all the way up to about 30 to 50 million. That's where they tend to go, and get bigger agencies. But in that space, how do you grow as you have more distribution? Because you usually start with one area, where you either get shelf space or get distribution via food service. Like where, how do you evolve and, how do you move forward? That's, I understand that ecosystem and how it works. And I've been in it for a little, quite a while. So that overlap of I'm an AI guy, an SEO traditionally, previous marketing agency owner, but so we can talk through all those things, but then make it relevant to what are your battles in CPG and health and wellness and food and functional beverage. Maybe even if you're an ingredient company, I've worked with chocolates, worked with flour, worked with other ingredient companies that are definitely B2B. They're in the bottom of Expo West, on the bottom floor, right? But that's where it starts. It starts at the ingredients and works its way up. Available to help in any of those. So if you have questions and can go relatively advanced, I will mention that I've got in conjunction with a group called Forum for Naturals, here locally, running both a AI training course this summer as well as a conference in Boulder in August in partnership with Naturally Colorado. So very active and have a lot of resources that can be accessed. We're at the beginning of all this. It should be fun, but fun for those of us who like all this algorithm and searchability and platform type stuff. But yeah, it was real stable for about 8 to 10 years until a few years ago, coming three to be exact, when AI kind of had a tipping point, and now everything is different at the machine level, and so we're gonna see that tip of the iceberg show up in the next yearish, and that's what everyone's kind of planning from. And that goes all the way down to even like Stripe and MasterCard and Visa. They are preparing and rolling out systems for the upcoming way that people are going to search, check out, buy, do different things. Like we're going to see some transformations take place that we just don't see coming, that are being worked on at the infrastructure level at the moment. So with insights into that, we can kind of give direction, whether you're big or small, as to what you should be doing today, including training your team. But that's a wrap. If there's questions, great. If not, we're at the hour mark. So I hope that was helpful. If you picked up one or two things, it was worth the time. But it at least gives you insight into how someone like myself here in Denver is thinking about traditional search, conversational search, agents, AI, and then how do you take a CPG food and beverage brand and you know, take it wholesale, take it retail, take it direct to consumer, get it propped up on Amazon, Instacart, Walmart. I mean, these are all things I work on every day.
That was fascinating. I learned a lot. I need to check my website.
There you go.
I need to do some work. So thank you for that. Candace, did you have any questions? Well, this was great. I have no doubt our members are really going to want to watch this video because so many good tips. You went through it beautifully. You explain things so well. So thank you for that. And Colorado Proud members, for our June 15th webinar, we will be working with Bravo CPG on a CPG masterclass. Don't miss that one. That one's going to be really exciting. Well, thank you again, Chuck, and we'll be sure to share this recording with everybody, and as well as if you can share your slide deck, that would be great too.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.